and welcome to Noclip's episode 101, but more importantly, the first episode of our 4-episode Games of the Year series. I'm Danny O'Dwyer, joined by the entire crew who are here. I'll introduce in a minute, but first of all, I just want to do a quick little overview of the format of what essentially is our first ever Game of the Year style podcast thing. And Noclip's been around for 6 years. We've never really done this sort of stuff before, but the podcast has become popular and we've been enjoying doing it, and it's become part of our big beat every single sort of week. And we just talk about games more, and we had a bunch of games that came up this year obviously that we really like, and we wanted to hype them up and enjoy them here at the end of 2022. So the format is going to be maybe a little bit different to what you're used to from other game sites. Perhaps we're not going to pick a game of the year. We don't have sort of like predetermined categories for these games to go into and fight amongst each other. What's actually going to happen is we're going to have this episode where we're going to pick our top 10 games of the year cumulatively, our collective. These are the top 10 games. So we'll have to fight somewhat to get our games in there, but we're not going to rank them in order. They will just be the 10 games that were the most important to the Noclip crew. We'll also talk about the games that maybe don't make it in. We'll be able to like talk about games we enjoyed that maybe aren't in that top 10. And then the next 3 episodes for the rest of December are going to be us talking about the games that made it in, like picking 3, 3, and 4 probably a week, celebrating them, talking about why we thought they were awesome, and then trying to come up with an award for that game. So we're not going to do best story. I mean, maybe one of them wins best story. I don't know, but we're not going to like make best graphics technical, best graphics artistic. We are going to pick bespoke, like homegrown, small batch awards for each of these games, and then we are going to go to one of those terrible websites on the internet that makes trophies, and we're going to make terrible trophies for these games, and we're going to send them to the people who made them. So that's the format. Noclip Games of the Year 2022. Today's episode, we're going to pick our top 10. We're going to talk about all the other games we enjoyed, and then for the rest of the month of December, we will be celebrating those games and giving them the awards they deserve. We will also have a secret patron-exclusive podcast at the end of the month, which will be a part of the Games of the Year festivities, but we're not quite ready to tell you what that one is. If you want to be part of that one, make sure you head over to patreon.com/noclip, throw us a couple of bucks, and you can get access to the Patreon episode feed. Okay, enough of the Irish guy. Jesse, how does that sound? Are you excited to get your top 10 games into this list and shut out the rest of us?
I'm so excited. I can't wait. I've been thinking about this all week. So excited.
Okay, Jeremy, what about you? How you feeling? You optimistic about getting some of yours in?
Listen, I got 5 games on my list, and it's going to be half of the top 10, right?
Okay.
So, and I will fight. I brought a knife, I brought a gun, I'm ready to go.
A knife versus gun. Frank, who wins? Knife versus gun?
I like the idea of the knife winning. That's brutal. Yeah.
Always the underdog.
Because you can take shots. You can take shots, but you'll still run up there. Yeah.
I love that. I'm a big fan of the knife versus bat is a big sort of giant bomb meme. I like the idea that we have knife versus gun, which seems like a pretty easy one to pick from, all things considered. But that gun could jam. You know what I mean? If it's like some sort of flintlock pistol, who fucking knows?
Knife don't jam.
Knife don't jam. There we go. China don't care. Knife don't jam. Love it. The worlds of Giant Bomb and Noclip have never been closer. Okay, so I guess the best way to do this is probably to get rid of the ones that are obviously going to make it onto the top 10. So how about we all just go down through the games that we have listed that we think are probably going to make it in, maybe some extra ones we want to chat about. Let's just do it one by one first of all, so everyone has kind of an idea of what we're playing with. Frank, you're first up on this document we have here. Do you want to tell us your games of 2022?
Yeah, just my little short list. Vampire Survivors, absolutely, I think definitively is my favorite game of the year. There's also Elden Ring, Neon White, Cult of the Lamb, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Gran Turismo 7.
God damn it, Frank.
So it splits after Call of Duty. These are now like my personal picks. I wouldn't expect these to make it. But Gran Turismo 7, Sniper Elite 5, and then Immortality. Immortality might make it on there. Yeah.
Man, Sniper Elite 5, I forgot that came out this year. It's on Game Pass, right? I downloaded it last night on Game Pass.
I really did mark it as best Game Pass surprise. Immortality was a Game Pass game too, but that had clout going into it. I never touched any Sniper Elite game. Oh my god, I burned through that game in like a month. If it was like a giant, I don't know, it's like Hitman and Burnout, giant open map. You're shooting Nazis and testicles. Like I really recommend everyone, if you have Game Pass, download it, spend an hour. It's co-op. Like it's a good game to grind. It kind of also feels a little bit like Metal Gear 5. I'm all in on Sniper Elite now. It's a very good series.
Excellent. Okay, Jeremy, next your 5 games. A couple of these have already been mentioned, so they might bode well for getting in.
Yeah, I think those are strong choices. We got Elden Ring, of course, because how could you not put Elden Ring on your list this year? Citizen Sleeper, excellent game. Signalis, Pentiment, and Immortality.
Nice. Okay. Jesse, your ones. Go for it.
Yeah, how could you not put Elden Ring on your list? Like this, Jeremy. This is how you put Elden Ring on your list.
My heart.
I'm sorry. Neon White, obviously. God of War Ragnarok, Cult of the Lamb, Card Shark, Marvel Snap.
Oh, man.
Citizen Sleeper, Immortality, Tunic, and then I'm going to say Poinpy. There's also Slice and Dice Stacklands, but I kind of just want to talk about those briefly in terms of like games in general. Stacklands and Slice and Dice are 2 games that like reminded me that games don't need all this like performance and graphics and stuff. They don't need like all these fancy extra things. Stacklands is a card-based management sim sort of thing.
Okay.
Where you're managing your resources and trying to keep your units alive, and you're doing combat. It's very simple and straightforward. It's on PC. I don't think it's on anything else. It's on Steam. You can grab it on there. It is stellar. It is so much fun. It will consume your life very quickly. It is like one of those addictive game loops. And Slice and Dice is the same sort of thing for a roguelike. So it takes a roguelike and it kind of bores it down to just stats. You're rolling dice. You have a couple characters that might have specific skills and health, and you're trying to kind of play those games. I think they're really important. And I think people who like games at a fundamental level, like if you could play a game that was just text and numbers, this is that, but with very simple graphics. And it just reminded me, like, I have God of War Ragnarok on this list. It is one of those games that is like the peak of AAA.
Right.
And then I also, I played these. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of just like video games when they're just doing cool shit.
Cool.
I don't care if they look nice or if they have, good actors in them or anything.
All right, we'll make a little. We'll put all the links to these games that we mentioned as well in the description on iTunes and on the YouTube video, just so people have them as a shorthand as well. And just to round off my ones here, my top, I don't know how many I put down here, 7 or something. I also have Cult of the Lamb, Weird West, Horizon Forbidden West, Elden Ring, Vampire Survivors, Return to Monkey Island, and I think maybe the other one I have here, Nightmare of Decay, is more of a I just want to talk about it. I think maybe those are my top 6 I have there. Okay, should we get the obvious ones out of the way then?
Yeah,
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Elden Ring, that's making it into the top 10, right? At the very least.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it? No, I'm just fine.
I think if I look through like the math of this, I think the only one that got all 3 of us. Did not all 3 of us? 3 of us did. Did 3 of us vote for Vampire Survivors as well, or I think that's just me and Frank, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll get Elden Ring in for sure. Then I'm wondering, is there any? Did Cult of the Lamb get mentioned 3 times? Yes. Me.
Yeah, I've got that on
Jesse
there as
and Frank. So Jeremy, unless you have any issue with that, are you going to throw your hands up, throw a red flag in the sky?
I don't have any issue with it, but when the list is when the real estate is closing up and there's only 1 slot left and we're fighting to see what makes it, I might problematize Cult of the Lamb.
Okay,
We'll see.
you might.
But for now, I think it's a very strong candidate.
Okay, we'll put it in for now. How about that? 'Cause there's nothing.
That sounds fine.
Nothing set in stone. So we got Elden Ring and Cult of the Lamb are already in our top 10. Does anything else sticking out? Neon White, we had 2 of you say that. That was a Frank and Jesse, I think. Citizen Sleeper looks like it was a Jeremy and Jesse. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Citizen Sleeper is fantastic, but there are games on my list that I would fight for over it. So
okay.
I would tentatively put Citizen Sleeper because I do think it's one of the best games of this year.
Okay.
Immortality's up there 3 times,
Yeah.
isn't it? Frank's got it on his list as well.
Yeah.
All
true.
3 of you did Immortality. Okay. The only reason I haven't is I haven't completed it yet. So that's a good. Okay. So Immortality actually is another one that has 3. Is there any other? Signalis. Are you the only one, Jeremy, who actually ended up putting?
That is shocking to me, Jesse. I'm shocked this
sorry,
isn't on your
Jeremy.
list.
I really liked Signalis. I did, but I like these other games more than I like Signalis.
I guess I do want to bring up a point that like I have with every end of year category, like list, whether it's music, film, or whatever. It's like it is impossible to play everything of like released in a single year until years later. So it's like I absolutely guarantee that Signalis would be in my top 10. I just didn't have time to play it. And I think I also want to give like honorable mentions to like. There's also like Callisto Protocol and Marvel's Midnight Suns that releases this week, and then even God of War I haven't touched much, or even Weird West. Like there's so many games, but like I do stand for Signalis. I do like that.
We'll talk about Signalis in a bit because I've played a lot of Signalis. I've not completed Signalis, but it didn't make my top 10, even though I liked it a lot. But I could see it getting in for sure. So we've only got 3 games in, so let's open it up a little bit more to the ones that got 2, and we'll just throw them in for now, and we'll see how we feel about it. So Neon White, we had Frank and Jesse. I'm fine with that going in. I didn't play enough of it to really feel it out. Jeremy, are you all right? We just stick it in for now?
Yeah, I think Neon White is not my type of game, but I recognize that I've played a little bit of it. I think what it does brilliantly, and I think for folks who enjoy that loop, I think there's pretty much nothing better than that.
Vampire Survivors for myself and Frank. That seems like a strong candidate as well. We'll get that in. That's 5. That's 5 games that are in, and then from there, I think Citizen Sleeper also has 2, so that seems fair to get that one in as well. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 left, I think. So the ones that are in currently are Elden Ring, Cult of the Lamb, Immortality, Neon White, Vampire Survivors, and Citizen Sleeper. There are 4 left if we went with that, and a lot of games to talk about. So let's go around and I guess just everyone go with maybe what's the first game that you would try and squeeze into that list. And let's start with Frank again. Why not? Frank, what would you try and squeeze in there from
my
list?
nomination is an easy, obvious one. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which beyond Elden Ring is the only multiplayer game. It's definitely the most accessible multiplayer game. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the basic stuff is always there. It's good. There's 2 things, even just to have this moment to highlight, there's 2 major innovations I love with this one. The third-person mode is so fun. It finally fills that like SOCOM Ghost Recon hole. It makes the game a lot sillier because the animations and speed of that game is so ridiculous, but seeing it all in third person makes it comedic and kind of makes it less angsty or sweaty when you die. So I've loved playing that with friends. And then they also released this like 2 weeks ago, their DMZ mode, which, oh my gosh, is now a new obsession. The DMZ mode is, they basically took their Warzone map, and instead of having 100 other enemy players on there, there's maybe 30 enemy players, and the rest of the map is populated with AI enemies. And then you have missions you can do. You can if there's like Counter-Strike stuff, you can blow up bomb sites, you can take hostages. But now it's like the perfect gameplay loop. Every mission's like 15 to 30 minutes, and then you have to extract by helicopter. It's like Metal Gear 5 online open world co-op. But yeah, I absolutely love Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Way more than Vanguard, way more than any other multiplayer shooter that's come out, I guess, since Cold War, like 3 years ago. Is
this a game that you play with your mates a lot?
Yes.
So if you can subtract the play with your mates, which comes with a lot of like free joy and free japes, what is it about this game that makes it one of the best games of 2022?
Yeah, no, the single player mode sucks. I would not. It's if you. It totally. Yeah, the multiplayer is great. No, yeah.
Not to totally discount it, obviously, but just you know,
I think it's absolutely the best multiplayer game of the year. But really, the third person mode in DMZ is they raised the bar higher with Call of Duty, which they haven't reached in a while. Like even all the futuristic stuff, I did not click with, like which they introduced like a decade ago. But yeah, that's my. Of my top 5 games that did not reach it. That is my favorite pick to introduce.
That's the one. Which actually worth mentioning, actually, that I think all of your other 4 games are in the top already in. Yeah. So you've managed to, you could get a full house here if we got a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 in. Okay, we'll put it in the orange section, the maybe section, just for the moment. We'll go around everyone and then sort of see how we feel about it. Jeremy, next. Which of yours? I think I probably know which one you're going to bring up.
Yeah, so Elden Citizen Sleeper, Immortality, already on the list. The two remaining are Signalis and Pentiment. Since I am going with Signalis here, but I want to shout out Pentiment really quick because I don't think it's going to come up again in this podcast. I do think Pentiment is one of the best games of this year. I haven't completed it yet. I'm very, very close to the end. I feel like I've played a lot of it.
Could you explain what it is for people who don't know?
Yes. Pentiment is a game directed by Josh Sawyer. It's an Obsidian game, and it is a 16th century sort of, I guess, like a murder mystery game. It's kind of a narrative role-playing game. The art style is basically imitating sort of like Byzantine art or Romanesque art. It's sort of those old medieval scrolls, and it's so striking. I think the art is worth enough praise alone to talk about.
Yeah,
but
it's like playing a game on the Bayeux Tapestry,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's like the Voynich manuscript video game. That's a reference for 6 people. This game was made for me in such a profound way. I studied religion in college alongside film. I used to be part of a torrent tracker called occult.bz where I would download occult texts, and when my roommates were watching TV, I would sit next to them and read like Renaissance manuscripts about magic.
It's the most Jeremy shit I've ever heard.
Yeah, who amongst us didn't have our Renaissance manuscript phase? Yeah.
So
and new metal was my...
Yeah, and listen to Korn and read the Hermetic Corpus. Yeah, Pentiment is just it's fucking brilliant. It is one of those games where you're constantly asking yourself how broad it is, because it gives you so much choice and so much openness that it's one of those games that creates the illusion of having infinite choice, of being able to interact with this small world in an infinitely complex way. And I think that is worth praise alone. I can't remember, it was like Carmack or Romero, one of the like game like godfathers, who talked about how, or it might have been, I think it was Warren Spector actually, talked about the ideal game wouldn't be sort of an ocean with the depth of a puddle. It would be a puddle with 1,000 feet of depth in terms of video games. And what he meant was that a small world with infinitely deep and complex interactions is way more interesting, because you're giving the player sort of infinitely complex ways to interact with the world, player volition about what's interesting to do, making them want to do things. So I think Pentiment is kind of that.
Cool.
However, Signalis is my #1 game of the year, far and away. I like it better than Elden Ring. I like it better than Immortality, and Elden Ring and Immortality are both all-timers for me, like best games of the last 10 years. Signalis is a piece of art. It is not only a great survival horror game and a throwback to what I like about Silent Hill and Resident Evil and those games. It is also an incredible piece of storycraft. I think that games in stories are often sort of, there's a lot of good stories in games, but I feel like story is often the bastard child of gameplay. It's often there to contextualize the gameplay and to like give you something to think about. I think that this is a story that if it was a movie, it would still be an amazing story. If it was a book, it'd still be an amazing story. It's also one of those games that just, it gets under your skin and it subverts your expectations, which is a huge part of the reason Inscription was my game of the year last year. It's a game that is constantly telling you this is the game, and then it's shifting things around and being like, oh yeah, you thought that was the game, motherfucker? It's not. I think Signalis is a staggering achievement, and I will fight tooth and nail for it to be on this list.
If you've listened to an old podcast, you probably know what Signalis is, but just in case you don't, it's basically a top. So we'll describe the games just a little bit, and also we'll say right now no spoilers on this one, but when we get into the games on the next podcast, it's fucking open season, right? As well. Yeah. Just this is for the listener, just so they have an idea as well. Signalis, like you said, like we've talked about a million times on the podcast over the past couple of weeks, is sort of like a Silent Hill-esque, Resident Evil-esque fixed camera perspective, kind of like Metal Gear Solid style camera, resource management, horror, dithering, all of that sort of stuff. I'm interested just in what you think story-wise, because I've not completed it. I'm at a part where I got past what I would describe as a sort of false ending, but I'm in a spot that's really hard, that I'm actually like a little bit stuck in, I would almost say. So I've not completed it. I haven't found the story necessarily to be like, I feel like it's the type of thing I need to have played it, maybe sat down for a week and then talk to someone about it. But the elements of the way that like tells the story, I found really interesting, and the way it like reveals to you the world and just the world itself is really interesting. Like the types, the like class system that exists, and the different types of, you know, droids and people and all that sort of stuff, and the way they explain that, and that stuff I found profoundly interesting. But what is it that you've enjoyed about it story-wise without spoiling the story?
Yeah, it's so difficult to talk about. It is one of those stories kind of like, honestly, thematically, it's so similar to Immortality to a bizarre extent. They're both kind of inspired by this trend in film, at least, that movies like the Double Life of Veronique, Ingmar Bergman's Persona, Mulholland Drive, a lot of this idea of two people who are inextricably bound in some sort of cosmic metaphysical way, and then their attempts to reconnect sort of get put through the ringer in this almost hallucinatory, bizarre, psychedelic way. And yeah, I don't know. It's just it's so hard to talk about without spoiling. I'm trying so hard to tiptoe around talking about the ending, especially.
All right, okay. I think let's not then. If it's
I think the best way I can put it is basically that it is it's an incredibly unconventional story, an incredibly challenging and experimental story, and one of those stories that I think you finish the game and you're like, I think I understood a percent of that, and then you sit for a week and you look at your notes and you put together what actually happened. And I think that is like, I don't know, it's an experience to try and decode.
It's a game that's calling out for a video essay, is what it sounds like.
I know.
Okay, Signalis, we'll put it on the maybe list there. We'll once we get around to everyone, we'll try and add one. Jesse, what are you gonna put forward as your top one that hasn't quite made it in yet?
I'm gonna put up Tunic.
Okay.
You know, I think this game, Tunic is gonna be ignored by a lot of people because it came out in February, and that's like too far back for anyone to want to put it in
Elden Ring did as well.
list. But Elden Ring is like, we've been waiting for that for the past decade, right? So it's a little bit different from a pretty good game that came out in February. Tunic is amazing. I think if you like adventure games, if you like fun puzzles, if you like Legend of Zelda style games, you're going to be into Tunic's ideas, what it's going for. But I think like the thing that puts it over the top for me, it's not just a pretty good game that like captures an idea from the past or tries to recreate a game format that already existed. The second half, you said we're not spoiling. I don't know if this is, I don't know. The second half of the game. Yeah, the second half of the game is a different kind of game from what you're playing from the first half, almost to a ridiculous extent.
Okay.
You end up playing this, and I wrote this down here, a pen and paper puzzle solver. Try saying that 5 times fast. It is...
I've heard there's a lot of note-taking in the second half.
There's a lot of note-taking.
Okay,
you have to in the second half. And it is so compelling, and it takes like the world that you've been playing in for the first 6 to 8 hours, and it takes it and flips it on its head entirely. Things that went over your head, things that didn't seem important, suddenly become so important in this world, and it's like you're playing a second game in the same environment. And it's so smart.
Which
without
is something,
spoiling anything, it's just so smart.
Which is also something I feel like it's not just what you're saying there doesn't sound like it doesn't fit. That's kind of what the whole thing about Tunic is like... Yeah. You're sort of like almost the Witness style, seeing levels to the game all the time that you didn't realize were there like 5 minutes prior.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like people I've seen a couple people say that games like Outer Wilds and like Tunic are Metroid Brainias, which I love as a phrase, because you're not so much learning skills that unlock areas, you're learning sets of information that change the way that you interact with the area and solve puzzles and do the combat and everything. And I think that Tunic, more than any other game this year, fits in that same position as some of the most well-regarded indies of the last couple of years. And I think it requires you to overcome combat that people don't seem to enjoy all that much, and I can kind of get the complaints. It's a little challenging, but once you push past that element, you are playing one of the smartest games of 2022, no question.
go check out the developer breakdown over on Noclip Crew right now.
Yes.
Yeah, I wish I played more of Tunic. I did find it difficult. I would say the combat mostly, but not in in a sort of way like I found Elden Ring's combat difficult. And if I had decided to press on, I would have. And for whatever reason, I think Tunic doesn't necessarily. I don't know. It didn't as much sort of what's the word, like sort of fishing rod me along or like tease me forward as much. Like I had no idea what was coming next, so I wasn't compelled to do that again. I feel bad now I've not played any more of it. But yes, well said, well put forward. Tunic will go on our little list here as well, our short list. Just to give everyone a little update, Elden Ring, the ones that are in, Elden Ring, Cult of the Lamb, Immortality, Neon White, Vampire Survivors, and Citizen Sleeper. And in for now. We might have conversations about that later. And Frank has 4 in right now. Jeremy has 2, Jesse has 2, and I have 3. So my next one I would put forward is Weird West, which is such it is difficult perhaps. I don't know. It is difficult maybe to divorce this from the story of immersive sims and to a certain extent Rafael Antonio himself. I don't know. This is a game that I was looking forward to and I wanted to be good. Weird West is a kind of isometric-esque top-down kind of basically immersive sim. It is a action combat game where you are, controlling the character almost like twin stick shooter style, or I played mouse and keyboard. In a Weird West, in a version of the Weird West, which if you don't know is kind of like the West, old Wild West, but with vampires and zombies and werewolves and all that sort of stuff. Weird West is like things that it has not going for it, which I think is important to mention, is people had a lot of trouble with the controls of it. I think if you're playing on a controller, that is the issue. I think if you're playing on mouse and keyboard, it's not so much of an issue. And it is one of those games, like pre-2016 and any immersive sim you talk about, where if you play it straight, you're probably not going to get the most out of it. You need to play it the way it is. You need to play it thoughtfully, is what I would say. Is that you need to really think about the things that you could do and then see if they work. And this game is insanely not just systemic in terms of it's there's fire and there's little barrels of green goo and you can make things catch on fire or shock people, or it has all that sort of stuff, and it has slow-mo combat so you can enjoy that. But in terms of the narrative, this game is absolutely insane. You can basically kill any character at any time and the game will continue. And without spoiling it, the game, it is known that the game takes place with a bunch of different characters. You play 5 different characters. Each chapter of the game is a different character. The demo you can play at the moment, I think, is literally the first character, so it's the first 20% of the game, and then it swaps to a different character. But it's the same world. The timeline is, relatively similar kind of stuff. I'm being vague just so I'm not even implying anything here. But there was one set of characters I was with where morally I just did not like what was happening. I didn't really like the side that I was for, and I didn't necessarily. I was kind of more on the side of the people that my sort of group of folks was against, and I just killed all of my people. I went screw that. I just don't like this. I don't like the mission, not the mission in the game. I don't like what they're going for. And I looked at the building a lot of them were in. I was like, I think I could just kill them all, and I'd probably get loads of shit for it too. And I'd love to see if the game would be able to handle it. And the game was able to handle it. It was insane. I killed all of these main characters. I killed 60 people, and there was a choice in the game. The game changed the story. They had accounted for you doing that, and it was and then at the end there was a person saying yes, blah 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 blah, and I killed that motherfucker too because I was like, I just want to keep going. Absolutely insane. And I don't this is again difficult to talk about without getting into spoiler territory, but this game has the best ending of an immersive sim I have ever played. Prey 2016 has an ending that pissed a lot of people off, that tried to do a whole, like, you know, the issue in immersive sims where it's like the cone opens up and the end of the game's coming. we gotta rein this fucker in. We gotta get you, and then we have to have an ending at the end which sort of explains away your choice, or like it never feels satisfying. This game ends with, here's all the shit you did. This is why it mattered. This was all the stuff you knew would probably come up at the end. Here's all the stuff you had no idea we were watching. And this is what it says. And this is what it says about you and your choices and all that stuff. And at the end I was like, oh, fuck. And then the win condition was based on a bunch of stuff that I kind of assumed the game was trying to keep an eye on, and a bunch of stuff that I did not think about. And it was perfect. It was like, oh, this is like the best ending to an immersive sim I've ever played, by a fucking country mile. And I know hardly any people are going to get to this, are going to experience it. So Weird West for me is like a slam dunk. I enjoyed it from start to finish, in the same way I did lots of these games. Like Cult of the Lamb is a great game from start to finish, just super tight and works really well. But yeah, Weird West for me is like, I don't know. It's like top 3 probably. And it's just a game I wish more people played. Like kind of a lot of what we have on this list. So I'll put it right there. Should we do another round and just get the next 4 in, and then we can start to get through it? Because I feel like we'll see how strongly people feel about the next ones. Is that okay?
Sure.
Frank, you have managed to get all of your children raised through college and married. So what else do you have on your list?
Yeah,
here?
I'm trying to think. Like,
Gran
I have
Turismo
the runt of the litter.
I have a huge feeling like Callisto Protocol would be in the thing, but we'll just have to do a catch up in the future once we play that. Even Midnight Suns I was looking forward to. Like the only other, like, because like I think I'm the only one here who like played Gran Turismo 7, which I love, Sniper Elite. It's like so like we haven't mentioned this yet, and I've barely even touched it, but I feel like God of War I will love once I get to it. I played 2 hours of it. I got through like the opening cutscenes. I just got to the point where the gear's dropping. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be good. But I just haven't touched enough of it. And then so.
Do you want to talk about that for a little while then? Maybe it doesn't make it on, but it's worth it. Has anyone else played it?
I think it should get on there. Absolutely.
You think it should?
Yeah, I crushed that game.
Yeah,
man. God of War Ragnarok's fucking good.
Yeah.
I like this. Jesse's getting like a side bet in here.
Yeah. Well, no, because it's like what I like about the format of this episode of this podcast is like we'll have the top 10, but then I'll have like a reading list of like, okay, cool, now I'll have a week to play these 3 games. So like God of War is finally the game where I'm like, okay, no, I'm gonna hook myself onto this, like, because I have what I always call my podcast games, like I'm playing Metal Gear Survive right now, which was released like 5 years ago, and I love it, but it's like there's like no space to talk about except right now. Check out Metal Gear Survive, it's good. No, God of War I started playing, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be good. It's just one of those things where sometimes I'm afraid to play games because of like how long the commitment might be, but once the game is good enough or pulls you, I'm like, oh, this is good. So I just need to chip at it out an hour. But I guess I like from Jesse's perspective. I'm just passing it to Jesse. Like talk about God of War. I don't know.
Sure, you don't have to pull my arm on that one. God of War Ragnarok is stellar. It is like, I said it at the top, but it is kind of like the pinnacle of AAA games to me. It is like, what if a Marvel movie was a video game? And not in a derogatory way. You can take that in a derogatory way if you want to. And some people will look at it for the derogatory meaning of Marvel movie video game. But it really does feel like you've got this ensemble of characters that are all kind of hanging out together. The story is amazing. There are characters that show up for 5 seconds and just take over your life. There's a character named Ratatasker, who is a large squirrel who's voiced by Sung Won Cho, which is just... He's so funny all the time. Awesome. He gives you these little tasks to do. Just a stellar inclusion of a character. But then on top of that, you've got God of War 2018's combat, which is like... It's so much fun. Throwing the Leviathan axe is amazing. If you've seen any advertising for the game, you know the Blades of Chaos are in God of War Ragnarok. So you have this style switching sort of thing. You have these... there's a lot more verticality to the combat compared to God of War 2018, where you're doing a lot more jumping down, you're slamming on things, you're using your chains. And this is the coolest thing in the whole game. You're using your chains to grapple hook onto things to maneuver around the environments. And in the middle of a grapple hook, if you're falling down, you can do a big attack and it does like an AoE fire damage thing or whatever weapon you're holding. So the combat's great. The puzzles are good, except for when the characters don't shut up. It is, man. Yeah, God of War Ragnarok, I don't think has anything in it that I think is bad. I've actually been talking about this with a couple of people because Neon White was kind of my pick for Game of the Year. God of War Ragnarok is sitting right there at exactly the same spot. And the reason for that, I think, is Neon White, when it hits its highs, it really hits its highs. Like, it's an 11 sometimes. God of War Ragnarok is so consistently a 9. Like, everything it's doing almost perfectly. And for that, I think it deserves to be on this list more than most other things on my own list, that's for sure.
And
I feel I've played a lot of it. I've not completed it yet. I'm well over halfway, I'd say, at this stage. Those games aren't made for me necessarily. I'm not a big linear linear like sort of AAA action guy. Like my entire life, like there are some ones that I really like the Metal Gear Solid franchise and stuff like that, but like a lot of the time I'll play those games for a while and I'll bounce off, and I find the combat to be too restrictive for me in some way. I don't really know why. But for what it's worth, I've enjoyed Ragnarok a lot more than the other one, which I also enjoyed, but it's just there's something about it's just not my flavor of cheese for whatever reason. I don't care about the overarching story so much, but I think I said this before a couple of weeks ago, the acting and the scenes and the character, they're so watchable.
They're so good.
It's very well done. The dynamic between Kratos and Boy is really good in this one. Like in a way that I'm enjoying, perhaps as a parent as well, of the sort of like he's getting older, you know what I mean? Like Kratos is getting older and he's got a little bit less of that sort of reactionary fight in him, and Boy is getting a lot more confident and sneaking out at night to play with his mates, and like all that stuff is very, very good, and I've enjoyed it a lot, the dynamics between them. So yeah, I can see it being in here for sure in the mix. Yeah.
If the story's not hooking you, man, by the end there are some things that start happening that will blow your mind.
I think it doesn't. I don't think it's necessarily the story's fault. It's the same reason a lot of comic book stuff doesn't grab me, but the characterizations do. Where I feel like the overall story is almost like there's like so little stake in a lot of comic book stories. Yep. Which I don't like, but I know doesn't matter. And the focus I know of a lot of comic book stuff is about characterization. It's more about the arc of the actual hero than it is about the stuff that's going on. But I really like stories about stuff going on. So it's right. Just another thing that if I was a teenager, I would have said, "Oh, the story sucks," but it's just like, oh, I know in myself that the thing that I prioritize is kind of this type of thing. And for whatever reason, those types of ones, high fantasy and stuff like that, like I prefer realistic sci-fi to high fantasy for that reason, because it feels like
that's fair.
It's about so but yeah, I think I'm interested in where the relationship goes and that sort of stuff, but yeah, I think it plays here. Okay, Frank, very generous of you to offer your one to Jesse there. I like
and then I will say, as soon as you get the blades, you can do the Mortal Kombat Scorpion thing, and I was like, this fucking rules. And that's like within the first 90 minutes or so, and I was like, okay.
Dude, and then you get Javelin too. You can hook onto them and then pull towards them. Man, so good.
It's good stuff. Anyway. Jeremy, what else you got here? I'm guessing, I don't know actually. We have
I've kind of mentioned.
I forgot you had
everything.
Immortality on the list as well. You actually have 3 as well. Frank actually has all 5 games he had on his list. I've just realized. He didn't have Immortality in his top 5, but he's got it in there. So you have Elden Ring, Citizen Sleeper, Immortality. You put forward Signalis. I'm guessing Pentiment would be the other one.
Yeah, Pentiment is really good. I talked a little bit about it. I do think, I don't know. It's tough. Pentiment is certainly one of the games of the year. It's certainly one of the games that came out.
One of the games of the year.
A game of this year. No, Pentiment is fucking incredible. I can't sing its praises enough. I honestly feel badly picking Signalis over it in some way. It's just that I don't know. So, I don't know. Should I use this block to talk more about how Pentiment is good?
I think you've already talked about Pentiment. Is there?
I know.
Yeah. For now, should we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
I'm cool with that. I feel like I've said my piece.
Jesse, you have Neon White and Cult of the Lamb on your list. You have put forward Tunic as another one for maybe the top 10. What else would you... Sorry, you also have Immortality. I keep missing Immortality when we do this. And Citizen Sleeper. Is that in there? It is as well. Sorry. You also...
It is,
What am I talking about? You have Neon
and I've
White
got God of War Ragnarok.
and God of War Ragnarok. You've also...
I'm collecting all my Infinity Stones.
You are. So what's left to do? I guess Marvel Snap would be a good one, a good segue if you wanted to go there.
Marvel Snap is a pretty good one.
But I'm guessing
I've got all my Infinity Stones.
I'm guessing Card Shark.
You know what? Of the 2 card games on this list, the one that I would put up has to be Marvel Snap. I think Card Shark, it's weird because I think I'm going through the same thing that Jeremy's kind of going through with Pentiment and Signalis. Signalis is something that like you feel in your soul. Pentiment is like this perfectly produced thing that like is really good. I think I'm in the opposite camp where Card Shark is so perfectly for me. It's like in my soul and my brain. It is this beautiful, it almost kind of looks like Pentiment. It's this beautiful game, has all these fun interactions, and you guys talked about this, Danny and Frank, when you guys did your Game of the Year nominees list over on Patreon. If you haven't listened to that episode and you have the Patreon, you should check that out. It's a funny one. You talked about how Marvel Snap is kind of like the Skinner box of video games. It is just like nobody's having fun playing this game. But actually, Marvel Snap is so smart and so like fun. So it's developed by, or it's directed by Ben Brode, I think is the guy's name. One of the directors on Hearthstone. Oh, okay. And he splintered off and made this game.
Is it iOS only?
This is Android, iOS, and Steam. You can grab it on Steam as well.
All right.
But it plays like a mobile game where the mouse is your finger. Marvel Snap is very different from Hearthstone or really any other card game. The closest thing I can think to is Knucklebones from Cult of the Lamb. It is the closest to that. You know how you have 3 lanes and you're kind of like putting bones in each thing and trying to get the highest points? That's what Marvel Snap is. But you're doing it with cards. So you each have 3 locations that you can put 4 cards on. And each card has a special ability. And the thing with Marvel Snap that makes it so good and so like, wow, this game is going to be fun forever, is that it is not a game designed for the player to go in and win right away. It is a game designed for you to play and like hope you win, hope desperately that you win, and hope that all the things turn out in your favor, because it is purely random. So the 3 locations that you get to place cards on are like locations with effects. So there might be a location that has +1 energy this turn or +5 energy this turn. And there might be another one that's ego. And everything is based on like Marvel characters and Marvel lore.
Right.
So even if you don't know about that, you'll kind of be able to figure out what's going on because they're just cards and they have simple abilities. But one of the locations is ego. And ego can play the cards for you. So you stop playing cards out of your hand. The game just starts playing for you and grabbing stuff and putting it on whatever location it feels like putting it on.
It's like when you hit autopilot and wipe out 2097. You just got a couple seconds.
But in a way where you can just delete all your cards. Good segue. That was good. Check it out, Noclip crew. They did a video. But yeah, Marvel Snap I think is so random, so fun, and so like the stories you can tell from playing the cards, the way that like the last turn ends up being this sort of like final moment, this desperate attempt to turn an entire game around by random chance is the thing that makes me keep coming back to it. Because it always feels like on the last turn, you should have won that or you should have lost that. And then the cards play out in the right way.
It's like blackjack.
Yeah, it's like drugs. It's like, oh man, it's so good.
Marvel Snap.
I don't know what it is. It is a Skinner box. That's what it is. But it's a fun Skinner box.
You put on your description here the bag of potato chips of 2022. I like potato chips. I gotta check this thing out.
Yeah, you can't stop. Once you pop, you can't stop.
There you go.
That's how it goes.
Pringles.
Yeah.
Noclip podcast brought to you by Pringles.
Brought to you by Pringles.
Okay, I've got 2 here. God damn it. See, I don't know. This is awful. I hate this. This is the thing I like to do is whenever you guys are talking about your games, I look at one of the games that I have on my list and I imagine how I feel about that and then listen to you. And I'm like, that's how you feel about that game. You know, because like when people are like talking about games and they're overjoyed about them, sometimes it can be like, oh yeah, well, you know, okay, I get it. But like, just connecting with that feeling of like, oh, I hope it makes it on the list. And that's looking at these 2 now, I'm just like, God damn it. So the 2 I have left on my list, and I have Cult of the Lamb, Elden Ring, and Vampire Survivors have already made it in sort of by committee almost. And we'll get to those. Weird West was the other one I put forward. The other two I have here are Horizon Forbidden West and Return to Monkey Island. I don't know if Horizon Forbidden West is going to make it on this list, if I'm honest. I don't. It's not. I think enough people have played it maybe and not put it on their list where it might be easier to get a game that nobody's played on the list. So let me talk about Horizon, I think. I think I'm very mournfully going to probably not get it on here. I really, really love Forbidden West. The first game is very much my style of open world game. Very open. You can go do anything you want almost right away. It's very road trippy. This one is literally set in the American West, which is a part of the world that I love driving around and exploring and camping every once in a while. You know, being able to recognize a lot of these places and get over the Sierras and like, you know, get down into the Bay Area and explore that and you know, all the like the Vegas that's in this game, all that sort of stuff was so enjoyable and felt like it was on my back door a little bit. I love the arc of the story. I think the ending isn't great, but I think Aloy's sort of like deterministic, only I can do this thing, sort of not taking help from the people around her was something that I could really, I was able to empathize with, sort of like controlling the world you're around yourself so that it feels more comfortable and this fear of allowing other people to help or the vulnerability that brings. Some of the actual like side stories are fantastic. There's one in particular, they basically do the whole like Mass Effect 2 companion quest thing with everyone, and all those stories are just amazing, and they're largely optional as well. But you are like literally, you get like a headquarters in this game and you're building your crew and you're getting people to join and move in, and they're like this weird motley crew of people, and there's like, you know, they get along and all this sort of stuff. But there's one guy who's like I forget which, is he Tunic or something? He's one of the various tribes in the game, and in one of the early missions he basically loses his arm, and the companion quest you do with him is about basically getting him a prosthesis and how he like deals with everything and how he comes to terms with it and how he relates to the idea of having a prosthesis or not. And it's just beautiful. Like, it's so well done. And there's loads of these. There's like a bunch of these small stories where they're just so smartly taught and believable characters in a way that you don't often get in open world games. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of it is just like, go fucking get 5 ruined pelt or whatever, you know, fetch quests or go do this. And there's a lot of that in this game.
This has that. Yeah.
It does. You're right. But it also, you know, has Horizon almost, in many ways these games do feel like they almost have too much game. Like, if they were to trim themselves down a lot, perhaps people would enjoy that a bit more. But people play these games in so many different ways as well. I just love it. I love it. There's a big sort of mechanical reveal at the end of the game, which is very cool. That really changes the world. It's gorgeous. It runs amazing. It's the best looking thing. It's open world and it looks better than most games on PS5. Those people at Guerrilla are just fucking insane. And I really, really like it. But I don't think it's making it onto the top 10. Who else has played it? Jesse, you've played it a bit, have you?
Yeah, I've played like the first 10, 15 hours or something. It is stellar. You're right to say that it's like, it is one of the best written open world games, I think, basically, without a doubt. The only thing I could think of that it competes with is probably Red Dead Redemption 2, and I think that game has fantastic storytelling. There's so many tribes and locations that you go to that are still burned into my brain. Like that series of that array of, what are they, the satellites, where they built sort of like a tree house, that one tribe, and their whole story, everything they're doing with the seeds and the do re mi and the music and everything that they do with the land gods. All that stuff is so well put together. The lore, if you dig into the lore of Horizon Forbidden West, I think that's what it does strongest. Is this John Gonzalez on this one as well, or
I don't know. I think he's left. I think he left in between them. Yeah. Well, so he was the writer
I like the first
on
one.
He was one of the two guys they basically brought in for Horizon Zero Dawn. Go watch our documentary over on the channel. But I think, I'm not sure if he's still there. I know the other guy left. But I'm not sure if John Gonzalez is still there. Of course, him from Obsidian. Let me look it up, but go ahead.
Yeah, let's find out. Regardless, stellar writing. Really well done.
Yeah. Anything else to say about Forbidden West? He is. Narrative
he
director
is?
and writer. He is. Yeah, he is.
There you go.
Yeah.
Beauty. Knows what he's doing.
That explains it. Yeah. Okay. I'll put Forbidden West on the list. I'm not sure if it's going to make the top 10, but it's there. Maybe. Actually, am I going to put that one on? So the other one's Return to Monkey Island, and this is a difficult one to mention without couching it in some sort of deep well of nostalgia. It's an impossible game to talk about without the nostalgia. It is a game about nostalgia in many ways. It's a game about So Return to Monkey Island, if you haven't seen it or cared, the Monkey Island games, obviously, there's a big Monkey Island poster literally behind me, as you can see on the video version, where some of the best point and click games ever made, released in the 90s. The first two games are iconic. The series continued after that, and people have their bits and bobs favorites here or there, but those first two games are the ones that people talk about. And this is essentially Monkey Island 3 in many ways. This is Ron Gilbert and a bunch of the old crowd, Dave Grossman, getting back to making their sort of finale to the Monkey Island series. And just in terms of like how it plays, the puzzles are very smart, very fun. It has an amazing tip system that is like insanely detailed. There was tip systems in the previous games where you could like basically get the game to tell you what to do, to 3 levels. This one has layers and layers and layers and layers of levels. It's actually hard to explain how the tip system works because it's so sort of like intuitive, but you can basically just like ask it for a nudge and it'll tell you kind of, hey, you should be doing that, or you should be doing this. He has like a notebook that basically outlines all of the quests you're on and how far you are in them and stuff, which really implies what you're meant to do. You're able to travel between the different islands and locations in like wicked fast for reasons that make sense within the game and like all this sort of stuff. And the it's so funny. It's like easily, it might be the funniest. It's up there. It feels completely as good as Monkey Island 1 and 2, which is insane. Insane to do, and the puzzles are probably better than them, and the art style, which I think some people weren't mad on when they first saw it, it was which I think is terrific, and the more you play it, the more it makes sense that it's in that art style because it's very easy to look at and highlights things very well and all that sort of stuff. So in terms of just like how it plays as a game, it's pretty special. And if you want to listen to our interview with Rex Crowell, who was the art director, go check out an old episode of the podcast when he worked on Lights and Bikes. But the game, in terms of like its emotional fortitude, is just absolutely insane. The ending of it is insane. It is like to the whole point of Monkey Island, the secret of Monkey Island is what is the secret of Monkey Island. And the joke is that all of these games nobody has ever found out what the secret of Monkey Island is. Like, they didn't tell you what the secret was at the end of the first game. All the other Monkey Island games, you never actually find out what the secret is. At any point, you never find out what the secret is. And this game is like, he's finally going to find out the secret. And it is like the Pulp Fiction suitcase or anything else in the game where it's like, the whole point of the secret was just to like be this motivating MacGuffin or whatever it is, right? It's not actually supposed to be anything. It's this thing. So how do you resolve that in this game? How do you do it 20 years later? It's almost impossible, right? And the choice they decided to go for the end of this game is absolutely insane. It is, no one would have ever thought of it in a million fucking years. Was very dangerous to a fan group that this was going to. And I think, you haven't heard arguments or scuttlebutt about the ending of this game. I think they fucking nailed it. And I think it was like throwing a dart 20 years ago. They threw a dart and somehow, and it flew through space and time, and somehow Ron Gilbert, Dave Grossman, and all these guys, they put the fucking dartboard in the place where it would land on the bullseye. They managed to, and it is insane. And I was weeping, crying. It was like I was fucking 12 again. It was unbelievable how well they landed this thing, and like how important it was almost that they landed it. And the like theme, like I can't even talk about it now. I'm like getting choked up, and I can't talk about it because I'll spoil it as well. But it is I went into this. I'm very forgiving of games that are weighed down by nostalgia, and I went into this one like Half-Life Alyx or something, right? I went in. I don't care, just do anything, and I like it. And then Half-Life Alyx was just the best. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it, and it blew me away. And this one was the same thing, where they could have done anything, and I would have loved this game. And I never expected them to stick the landing like this. And I think it is the best ending. I think this is like pound for pound the best ending. The most difficult to best ending that has ever happened in a video game. It is fucking unreal. And it is, no one would have ever thought about it. And it's just beautiful. And I can't even think of another game that's done it. It's amazing. And it's impossible to talk about it as well. So it's hard. But so as much as I love Horizon Forbidden West, like, I think Return to Monkey Island is an impossible game. And I can't believe it exists. So I think that's the one that I have to put on instead.
Damn.
Well said.
Sorry, Horizon. Mm-hmm. I loved you very much, but we don't have it.
Not enough.
Who is messing with the thing here? There we go.
Oh, I might have clicked by accident. Sorry.
No worries.
I was just trying to see it on one screen, but my bad.
So, okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here on the list, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games to go into a possible of 4. Do we want to talk about, before we get into that, should we go through some of our games that aren't going to make it in, maybe? Or, because I'm almost trying to like offset the inevitable here. Or should we just dive into these and do these? And then figure it out later?
Yeah, I mean, I'm down to just jump into it. I did want to say something about Poinpy real quick.
Okay.
A game that no one will play, but everyone should.
All right,
another
good.
mobile
Let's
game.
do that then. Everyone go through and pick a game that is never going to make it in, but you want to talk about it. And we'll start with you. We'll go backwards.
All right. Yeah, Poinpy is the pinnacle of mobile games. It is very, very good. It is the latest from the developer of Downwell, but instead of going down into a well, you go up into a point. I don't know. I tried to make that work. It didn't work. But basically, you're playing this little guy who's trying to not be eaten by a bigger guy coming from the bottom of the screen, and you're trying to go up. And it's like nostalgia a little bit for me because it reminds me of a lot of games I'd play on iOS when I was like 10 years old and the iPhone had just come out and everyone had one in elementary school or high school. It was a good time. But I think it has one of the coolest endings to a mobile game I've ever seen. It is like subverting your expectations, and the game is also really, really good. Like, you jump in these little arcs between locations and you're trying to collect these resources so that you can feed this animal below you so it doesn't eat you, and it kind of delays it, and you're trying to like get all the way to the top as best as you can. But the way that it can, like, it feels just like a fun arcade kind of mobile game on the surface. And then once you play enough of it and you get to the end, you find out, oh no, they actually were making this like really neat kind of short indie game that wasn't supposed to take that long to finish, but it does. And then when you finish it, it's like, hey, here's more of the arcade game, go nuts. It's actually really cool. Neat. And there's like a million puzzles to solve. It's fun.
What did you play it on?
Android. It's on Android and iOS. And if you're a Netflix subscriber, it's free.
Oh, it's a Netflix published game. There we go.
It is. Yeah, along with
How does that work? Do you have to like connect up a thing to an account or something?
Yeah, if you log into Netflix on your phone or your whatever, it's under like games. There's a small tab at the bottom of the screen, and then you click that, and then it takes you to the store page on whatever, and then you download it from there. It's so weird, but it works.
And so there's like a bunch of games on that system? Like if you go to Games tab, there's like a bunch there? Okay. Right.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cool ones. Stranger Things 3, that, Immortality, if you want to play that on your iPad. Nice. That's on there.
Good stuff. Okay, Poinpy. Check it out, everyone, especially if you've got Netflix, as it turns out. If you don't have Netflix, can you buy it?
I think it might be the only way to play it, is if you have Netflix.
All right.
Yeah.
Really? Interesting.
Really weird.
Okay, Jeremy, any honorable mentions from you?
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to shout out Scorn, a very controversial game that tore the internet apart. As some people said, where is all the gameplay? And some people said this is the coolest H.R. Giger game ever made.
It's a shooter. It's not a shooter.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's kind of a first-person survival horror game is the best way to explain Scorn in the world of very inspired by H.R. Giger and Beksinski, whose work I'm less familiar with. I hope I'm saying his name right. But yeah, it's kind of just a wet, disgusting world where you stick your fingers in holes. And it's fucking cool. It's short. I think the puzzles are really good. And I think the atmosphere and the payoff is worth it. There's a moment towards the end that I want to mention so bad, but the surprise is worth it. It will make you like gasp in surprise and not horror, but just like, I can't believe someone did this in a video game. This is simultaneously disgusting, hilarious, and weirdly moving.
Hey Jeremy, can I say something I've been saying all year?
Yeah,
you need to play that new Resident Evil game, my brother.
I know. I started. I played it like the beginning of 8, and I was like, I want to play 7 before I play this. I also would like to shout out very briefly Roadwarden.
Oh, cool! Yeah, I remember you mentioned this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Roadwarden is kind of a quieter game. I haven't seen a ton of people talking about it. I think the reason that a lot of people bounce off it or don't try it is because it is very text heavy. Games like Citizen Sleeper that are text driven, or games like Disco Elysium, those are games that have a lot of text, but Roadwarden is a game that gives you a lot of text in each individual kind of story node. So Citizen Sleeper, you might get a dozen lines of dialogue, but it's very quippy. They're like, hey, did you do this? Hey, I did this. And then they kind of have a meaningful conversation. Roadwarden is a game where you get to in a tavern and there's 4 paragraphs to read about everything you're seeing in there. It is really dense. I, as someone who likes that kind of game, have to be in the right mood to play Roadwarden, and I've not completed it. But it's it's the closest thing I've played to an interactive high fantasy novel, and I think it deserves praise. Its writing is very smart, its world building is brilliant, and it's just an interesting, cool world. So if that description doesn't sound horrible to you, you should check it out because it's fucking cool.
Excellent. Roadwarden. And Scorn, 2 games we've talked about in the podcast before as well. And if you forgot to play them after that, folks, go check them out today. Frank, do you have any other honorable mentions? We kind of talked about Sniper Elite already.
One I forgot to mention, because I forgot the Rogue Legacy 2, technically released this year as a 1.0 launch. Yeah.
A second ago, also added it to my list. Yes, I totally forgot to mention it.
I dove through my Steam library and I was like, wait a minute. So Rogue Legacy 2, it finally launched 1.0. So if you have yet to check it out, also an essential like Steam Deck game, I would say. And then let me see. I guess it's a weird category, but my 2021 spillover game, like the game I did not touch till this year, was Lost Judgment, the latest in the Yakuza franchise. And like I love that game because I'll dip into it like every 3 months or so. I'm about to get back into it, where it's like all of those games are always reliable and sunny and so funny. The last time I popped it open, I did a side quest. You're a detective and you get hired by a producer at a game company. This team is crunching on a stealth adventure game, and the lead eccentric designer, he snuck out of the office because he's making a stealth game to avoid responsibilities. So you have to go to the city and find this Kojima like the developer who's hiding away.
God.
And it's like every time you put up the game, you don't know what silly thing you're gonna get. Like Yakuza, just as a whole, Lost Judgment, all the same thing. It's just this endless manga that I love dipping back into. So Studio RGG, I love, and I will absolutely beat Lost Judgment before Like a Dragon 2 or whatever comes out next. But I just want to give a shout out to those games. Are always there. I love those games.
Yeah, Rogue Legacy 2 I've played a lot of, and I've enjoyed it a lot. I still haven't completed it yet. I think I'm 4 or 5 biomes in at this stage. And it's just it's a real good like comfort game to go back to. I don't know why it's not in. It kind of has the Spelunky 2 effect of like, this is exactly what I wanted this game to be, but it's not like, I feel like a lot of like games of the year thing is like games that have really affected us a lot. Like kind of what Jesse was saying earlier, where there are games that are like short but 10s throughout, or games that are, in a way like Vampire Survivors. When I look on it here, it's a solid 7 forever, but like into infinity. It's why it's like so good. And I feel like Rogue Legacy is another one where it's like, it didn't wow me, but I also didn't need it to, you know what I mean? But I don't necessarily put it on a top 10 list for that reason either, yeah, it's a terrific game. A couple of other ones that came up for me, just to mention briefly, games we talked about in the past, like Metal Hellsinger and Hyper Demon, some great games that came out. The Uncharted Lost Legacy and The Last of Us Part 1 were both games that I enjoyed this year. I've played a lot of Worms WMD with my wife. That's probably become our favorite game of the year. My wife's favorite game of the year was 2 Point Campus, which it's a terrific sequel to the 2 Point Hospital game. You mentioned the 2012 game or 2021 game that you didn't get to play until this year. How about the 2021 game that came out so late that it wouldn't have made any game of the year list last year anyway? Was the Gunk? Do you remember the Gunk? I feel like we haven't talked about the Gunk. Nobody's talked about it.
It's on Game Pass.
We talked about that at the start of the year.
Really? It's on Game Pass?
Yeah, you and me, Danny. We talked about that.
We talked about it this year? Yeah, technically came out December 16th.
Oh, wow.
Made by the folks who made... Who was it? It was...
Steam World?
Yes, you're right. The Steam World.
Yeah.
Dig and heist people and all that sort of stuff.
Nothing like
3D.
Those games. Couldn't be farther removed from
3D
those games.
and kind of Metroidvania-esque and all that. So it's super fun. Nice, tight little fun game.
It's a good time.
I played and completed Norco over the weekend.
Oh, nice.
Have you played it, Jeremy?
I've only played it's one of those games that I know I'm gonna love, and so I'm much like other games this year where I was like, I need to wait until I'm in the right headspace.
Yes.
I've only played the first hour,
Okay.
and I was like, this is great, and I need to wait until I'm the right mix of depressed and excited to play this.
I'm going to say something that's probably going to upset you.
Okay.
If you had played this, I think it might be in your top 3 games of the year.
Really?
Yes, I think specifically, without saying anything, I think specifically there are elements of this game that are like very you, I think. Jesse, you're nodding as well. Have you completed it?
I haven't completed it, but I got pretty far into it. I got a save thing, and I went back to it. I got a couple hours into it.
I basically burned through it. It's only, I don't know. It feels like it's maybe a 6-hour, 7-hour kind of game.
Okay.
I burned through it over the weekend because I just wanted to get one in that I thought might make it. It's not going to make my top 10 games of the year. It's super unique, and this is a game. It's kind of like a narrative adventure game. Is it on Game Pass? I think it's on Game Pass as well. Yeah. It's set in like the future in New Orleans, in this sort of like future alternative history future maybe as well, where there is this sort of like petrochemical company that runs this entire town. Basically, it's all about the people. It's about like class consciousness and environmentalism and spirituality and religion and family and time and getting older and illness and legacy and all this sort of stuff. And fuck me, does this game go places. Like I think yeah, I don't want to say anything about Norco other than fuck, when you're at the end of Norco, it's kind of like I had the like Ron Burgundy that escalated quickly sort of image in my head. It purrs along at a solid like beat, and it's very stylistic and beautiful. And then the last part of that game is just like, it's like they have all their confidence and they're like, all right, now we're gonna do our guitar solo. You know what I mean? Like let's just and let's see if you like this. Let's do this fucked up thing and see if you like this. And it's a very interesting and unique, weird game. I think it's probably getting passed over a lot of people as well. And it's so weird that I get it. But I think you should give it a go over the holiday break maybe.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely will.
Norco. But yeah, I think the only game I wanted to mention actually here in terms of a game that probably won't make the top 10, but I super enjoyed, and I think we all did, was Nightmare of Decay, which was a great little sort of first-person Resident Evil 1 homage. It's a $5 game on Steam, made by I think largely one person. It's just great. Super tight loop. It's genuinely scary in parts. It's spooky. It's in a big mansion. The puzzles are clever. It's not overly long. I find it difficult not to recommend it to basically anyone. It's a very cool little game. And then the other game I played a lot this year, but it didn't come out this year, is Project Zomboid. That game is fucking amazing. My God, love that game. Was there anything else? I basically just ran through all my other games. Was there anything else that anyone wanted to mention?
Gran Turismo 7 got me into Japanese dance fusion, so for expanding my music taste, it gets a music nomination.
Best orchestra in a menu.
Yeah, best museum. I learned what year Windows XP launched, and like the museum. I will say the museum mode of Gran Turismo 7 is like the funniest thing I've ever seen in a video game. It starts in like 1895. It has World War I and also the invention of the Ford. It is. I adore it.
9/11 in it? They mentioned 9/11?
They skip 9/11, but I feel like they have like.
How dare they?
They said they'd never forget.
We say it every year.
I think they have something like in 2007 or 2011. It's like the World Trade Center like memorial is built, where it's like they avoid 9/11, but they have.
But they don't say why there's a memorial. They're just like there is a memorial. It was an interesting
choice, but I think they also do cover like World War II, so other atrocities are in there.
Okay. They don't just say like Armistice Day, you know. They don't, you know. It's not like the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. It's like slow mo. Cool. And yeah, I feel like you're right. We're gonna have some Callisto Protocol problems maybe in a couple of weeks. We'll see. Jesse, it looks like we got through everything on your list as well. Jeremy, I think we went through everything on yours too. I know you played a lot of Silent Hill.
Other than Silent Hill 1 and 2, which I played for the first time this year, and they're all-timers. Still great. Play them,
folks. Play them. Okay.
There is one I want to mention real quick. Sure. It's Cassie's pick. Fiance, shout outs. She has been telling me to play it, and I'm so bad at listening. Telling me to play Tinykin. It is on Xbox Game Pass. It is a like 3D adventure game through a house. You are very small, and it sort of plays like Pikmin, where the characters that are hanging around with you, they're these little goobers, and you throw them around, and they all have individual special abilities based on their color. So you're solving puzzles by throwing these Tinykin, I guess, at these objects. I watched her play a little bit of it. It looks adorable. It looks fast. They're adding a speed running mode or like a race challenge, which looks really cool. I was gonna say racist challenge. I was that close. No, Tinykin. I swear they don't do that.
The blue Tinykin are not allowed to follow you anymore.
Oh no!
Yeah. No blue Tinykin in this area. Whoops. Yeah, no, it looks fantastic. She has not stopped talking about it. Wow. It's her favorite game of the year, and I wanted to give it a little shout out.
It looks neat, and it's got overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. Came out August 30th, 2022. I'm definitely going to check this one out. Thank you, Cassie. Is this it looks like it's a 3D game, but the characters are 2D? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, just the billboarding thing where the characters are 2D sprites just standing up, yeah.
This looks really very cool. Great, yeah. Wow, okay. Totally passed me by. Thank you very much for mentioning that. Okay, all right. So let's get to the ugly business, gentlemen. Nothing is in yet, but the ones that are more in than not are Elden Ring, Cult of the Lamb, Immortality, Neon White, Vampire Survivors, and Citizen Sleeper. The ones that are on the edge of greatness are Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Signalis, Tunic, Weird West, God of War Ragnarok, Pentiment, Marvel Snap, and Return to Monkey Island. The floor is open, gents. Who wants to lobby for their favorite?
I will, but I don't necessarily need to go first.
You've spoken up, so go for it.
All right. I was just waiting to fill in the silence. I know I said why I like Signalis earlier. I think that the things that it does well mechanically are very traditional. I don't think it is the most innovative mechanically, I don't think it's the most innovative survival horror. What it does really well mechanically is that it is harkening back to an age of survival horror that speaks to me personally. I think I really prefer more cerebral, psychological survival horror where it's about, you got 7 bullets in the clip, and I think as much as I love Resident Evil 4, it did change the trajectory of a lot of survival horror games. Obviously, Resident Evil 7 and 8 are getting more back to the early kind of roots of survival horror as well. But I think Signalis is singular in its ability to evoke the sort of the emotions of Silent Hill 1 and 2. I think it is a very particular type of cerebral story that gets under your skin, that's haunting, and is cosmic horror. It is a game that is not just about, there's the lab, they broke a vial and now there's zombies because everyone's infected with the T virus. It is a game about how human connection can be this thing where you would throw the whole world under the bus for this person who you've connected with. How your connection with one person is worth eschewing the value of the entire rest of the world. How everything else, how industry and culture and society, all of these things are ancillary before love. How love is the primary thing and everything else is secondary. And I think that it is very rare to see that type of story in games. I understand why a lot of people might not connect with it, because I think it's one of those stories that it kind of came together as I went over my notes, as I tried to mentally assemble what had happened, and as I kind of read other people's thoughts on it. I also have read other people's theories on what happened in the game that are totally different than my own, which I think is also I think that speaks positively on Signalis. It is not a cut and dry narrative. So yeah, I think mechanically it's very traditional survival horror. I think narratively it is incredibly innovative, incredibly frame breaking, and I don't know. I just think it's absolutely brilliant.
It's funny. I think you might be underselling even the mechanic. I hear what you're saying, because you went back and played Silent Hill 1 and 2 this year, but I didn't. So to me, it was like actually really refreshing, because
okay, cool.
You know, it felt like kind of Metal Gear Solid 1-esque to me, and I've not played much Silent Hill. I've played a lot of Resident Evil, but they obviously control quite differently, or similar but different. But to me, I actually, it was perfect on deck as well, because it was just like a little 16:9. Like the levels are laid out almost horizontally more than they are vertically, so it kind of like works out. And even the UI is like a weird sort of Metal Gear Solid-esque. You go left to right to pick the things type thing. So it was perfect for that. And I liked, like, even down to, like, this is really silly, because obviously it playing well on Steam Deck shouldn't make a difference, but just being able to play this game at, like, in my bedroom at nighttime, you know what I mean? Like, it just added to the whole sense of it as well, which I thought was quite cool. So here's the thing. I don't want to break everything up here, but when you talk about Signalis, you talk about it like some of the games that are in by committee here, I don't know if we're going to be as passionate about as the way you are about Signalis.
No, 100. It is my game of the year. I would if I've obviously this is just this is game of the year. This is not the end of the world. I'm not I'm not handing Signalis off to a helicopter in Vietnam to save it. That being said, I would withdraw support from every other game that means Signalis gets on this list.
Okay,
I think
so. Yeah. With that in mind, Jesse, is there any game that you have that is in this like little orange pool of bridesmaids that you would put in over just about anything that's already in by committee? Or do you feel like the ones that are in there are maybe more your jam?
I think I would. There is. Do you want me to say it, or do you want me to say if there is?
Yeah.
Tunic, I think I would put above some of the games on that list.
Okay. How many of the games?
Like half. Like 3 of them.
Okay.
I would put it above Citizen Sleeper, and I would put it above Cult of the Lamb, personally.
Okay.
Frank,
what about
Signalis? No.
Let me see. Everything that's not on here, where it's like, I mean, I love Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Like, that's absolutely like my favorite of this bottom pool. But also, it is a multi-billion-dollar franchise. No one needs to go up to bat for Call of Duty, although I will proudly go to bat for it. I mean,
look, at the end of the day, this top 10 list is our favorite games, and you are one of us.
Yeah.
So it doesn't I think that's what I'm trying to get away from a little bit, is that there's an element of this that's going to be like, hey, look, we all like this. All of us like this game, at least a little. Whereas, but if there's a game that obviously Signalis feels like it has to get in because Jeremy's, it's his favorite, right?
I'll break up with you all.
I will also say I'm excited.
So where does Call of Duty land in, I guess, your sort of favorite games of the year? Is it really high up there, or is it just one that was part of your tapestry?
It's definitely in my top 5 because it's the best multiplayer game. I would put Call of Duty above Immortality. Just personal enjoyment, absolutely. But not as innovative as Vampire Survivors. But
is it not straight?
Dude,
I feel like that's not the innovation
I love
fight.
Vampire Survivors is, in terms of just a game that gets me to focus on it and not be anxious, is so, because I'm such an anxious person, or excited. It's the same emotion.
Well,
but
I guess what I'm saying is when we get around to giving these games awards, it probably isn't going to win the innovation award in particular.
But I like even just focusing on like Signalis, like that's a game I'm eager to play. So any reason to play it, like I'm excited just to have our little like 30-minute jam about it. Like I would absolutely want to play more Signalis. Signalis got me to play Metal Gear Solid 1 again. It's like the best PS1 game of the decade. And I think
totally.
like
hey, Nightmare of Decay is gonna be upset if you say that.
Also, like I didn't look too much into it, but I think it's like what Jeremy talked about. It's like I think they've been developing this game since 2016, 2014? Like their dev history of this is long.
6 years at least.
And it's like
which Signalis?
Yeah, Signalis.
Yeah,
okay.
I think they've been working on it for almost 8 years.
You play as an anime babe, which I always like the aesthetic of it is. I think Signalis is very dope, and I would be proud to honor it.
So what I'm hearing actually is you're kind of happy because you got like 4 of your top 5 in, and you're kind of okay with Call of Duty not making the cut.
Yeah, although I just want to say, if people are listening, check out DMZ mode. It's very, very good. It's free. You can download DMZ for free. So I think it is noteworthy. I like it.
Okay, fair enough.
If it launched with weed skins, then I'd be happy. There's still no cool cosmetics, so they kind of dropped the ball.
Can I also make the argument then that maybe Call of Duty Ragnarok isn't going to play?
Oh,
Call of Duty Ragnarok.
Dude, that would be sick. That would be sick.
That's my game of the year. Fuck yeah, dude.
Call of Duty
Put Kratos in Call of Duty.
Fly around.
Hell yeah, dude.
No, oh man.
Yeah, if you got a kill streak of 12, you unleash boy upon the rest of the team.
Something of something.
I like
Ragnarok.
the innovation argument where it's like, when we discussed the Spelunky rule or whatever, where it's like God of War Ragnarok. I'm sure it's gonna be amazing and I will love it. But is it going to surprise me? I hope it does. But it's like, I feel like I know what I'm expecting. I'm like, hell yeah, that's cool.
No, you're not.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I am eager to play. God of War I'm going to play in December, so I'm excited. But I can take it or leave it.
Jesse, you had it on your list. It was pretty high up there, actually, as well. Yeah. What do you think about it, just in terms of playing in that top 10? Is it because you mentioned Tunic over that? Would that be like a close second? Like, how you feeling? Because this might be your Horizon Forbidden West. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Like
it kind of is. It's kind of the AAA game that is exclusively for me. Obviously not exclusively, but like it is something that I just really like for everything that it's doing. But I don't think it pushes anything over the top. But there are like, I don't know. I say that, and then I feel like the other night I was trying to explain the ending to Cassie and like everything that leads up to that. And in the same way that you were like getting welled up talking about Return to Monkey Island, I was getting welled up talking about the ending of God of War Ragnarok, like the ending of that game. Man, I don't know, it's tough because Tunic is one of those games that I know what I did for the last 3 or 4 hours of playing that game is going to stick with me for the rest of my life because it was so mind blowing. And when I finally get to, I don't know, maybe I hope you guys will let me spoil what's so cool about Tunic when we get to that point.
Yeah, if it makes it in and we get to it,
which
then,
it
will.
Yeah, Tunic is a powerful video game, and it's a video game too. Where what I like about God of War Ragnarok mostly are the things that God of War Ragnarok didn't have to be a video game to do. It could have been. I could have just watched the cutscene movie thing on YouTube, and I would have loved it. The gameplay, I don't know how much of that I actually loved as much as I loved the story. So I think for that reason, I wouldn't put it above Signalis, which I think Signalis has like one cutscene that I'm like from a technical perspective, I don't know how they did that. Which is insane to say because none of it's just like 2D images where God of War Ragnarok is rendering all these polygons, a million times a second, where Signalis, just put up the same 9 or 10 pictures like a bunch of times, and I was like, this is amazing. I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, for some Lynchian ass weird fucking text adventure ass cutscenes, they're really well done. They're like very I agree. Okay, Ragnarok. Can we move Ragnarok into what I'm kind of now calling the pile of like personal favorites or something? Maybe there's some
toys. Yeah.
Maybe this creates its own little. I feel like we're pretty blue sky about how we're gonna do this whole thing. So like maybe we find a home for these as well. I don't know. Maybe it's not a top 10. Maybe let's just.
I like the idea of each person writing an essay that we like give a speech in on one of these later episodes. Like here's my
yeah. Or I like the idea of us having like a top 10 and then each of us gets a wild card or something. You know what I mean? Like that we also get, so we don't feel so bad or something.
Oh, that's good. Like a wild card. Everyone gets to put out their own wild card award. I think that's good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That'd be cool. Okay. I forget where was it. Me next? It might have been. It probably is because I see what's on here. Okay. Oh fuck! I just deleted Weird West by accident. Okay, so we currently, it seems we have 2 strong candidates for those last 4 places, Signalis and Tunic, and the 4 that are left here are Weird West, Pentiment, Marvel Snap, and Return to Monkey Island. It's so hard to choose between the 2 of them because they're both on very different ends of the spectrum, Weird West and Return to Monkey Island. I think like Weird West is like, it's probably my 2nd or 3rd favorite game of the year. I really, really like Weird West a lot. I think like I'm excited to replay Weird West. I feel like I scratched the surface on it. I liked almost everything about it. Like some people definitely didn't vibe with the controls, or I don't know what else they didn't get. But just in terms of an immersive sim that just lets you fuck around and find out. Like the whole point of this game, I think, was them not doing a first-person one so they could focus on just like the mechanics and all the weird stuff that they have to account for. And like, we covered it in our developer breakdown of Weird West. Every infantry object is also an object within the world. So if you take a piece of corn and put it in a barrel and then get in a fight and then fire explodes and burns the oil, which sets the barrel on fire, that corn is cooked. Like, it's that game, but with like all the mechanics and then also the story, which is just like bananas. I also think like, I don't think I talked about this before, but the 5 different characters that they let you play are whip smart. They're all different. They all have like different ways of playing. I don't want to get into spoilers on it or anything, but like in terms of their ethnicity or their form, it's also very interesting. Like there are some that come with very interesting backstories. There's straight up like a warning at the start of one of them that's like this whole thing, these people, this was fucking real, and what happened to them, that was real, and like everything else is made up, but you should fucking know when you're playing this. Like that is very like sort of arresting. The mythical stuff is so good. The music, I think the interface and art style, like all that sort of stuff is just I like it is like poetic that this game is not getting as much eyes on it as possible, because Rafael Conatonio has made a fucking career out of making cult classics that people care about 10 years later.
Games no one plays.
Weird West. Weird West is one of those games. 100%. Weird West did not get its moment in the sun. People complained about it, about stuff that I think was largely in the same way people complained about Prey, because they were like, it's like a first person. It's not the other Prey. It's not the Prey we saw in that trailer 5 years ago. It's not human heads, Jackie Estacado sequel. And I'm a fan of the original Prey 26, Prey 2006, wherever the fuck it was. Like it just got buried because of that. And I think Weird West is in a similar spot. And I think when people get around to it, they'll be like, oh shit, this thing was cool. I didn't know. So I'm gonna put that one forward as my one. Monkey Island is. I love that game, but I find it difficult to when you love something so much that you kind of think, this isn't coming from a rational place. This is coming a lot as well from my heart, but I do love it. So I don't know what to do about that. And I need to open the floor up to somebody else. So those are my ones there. So the other ones that are left are Pentiment and Marvel Snap. Aside from that.
If you think that Return to Monkey Island, you'd have a hard time putting that up in the top 10, I think we've already locked in what it is, because there's no way Marvel Snap is going in this top 10.
Okay.
Right? Like, there's no shot that's going in the top 10.
It doesn't have Spawn.
I think it should. It does have Spawn.
What?
It has 2 spawns. It has 6 variants of Spawn cards.
Wait, is Spawn in Marvel Snap?
Yes,
What?
every Marvel character is
Wait,
Spawn.
wait,
no.
Spawn is, wait,
Yes.
hold on.
Yeah,
Brew
Spawn.
another
Hold
pot
on.
of coffee,
Actually, I need to
boys.
double check. I feel like I saw.
Because
I feel like I
Spawn
saw-
is Image, but that's the thing.
That's right. I can't
Wait,
remember
maybe
now.
not. No, that's okay if not.
Am I thinking of Swarm? I think I'm thinking of Swarm. I'm
I
sorry.
do like
he's
the
not.
art on the cards.
I take it
though.
back.
Oh no! What a roller
Damn,
coaster.
that would have changed
Yeah,
everything.
apologies.
All good. All good.
Venom's in there. That's almost.
Yeah, Todd McFarlane
Spawn,
did make
right?
him too, so that there is Spawn DNA. I gotta check it out. But I'm hyped for Marvel Midnight Sun. Anyways, I'll back. But oh my god.
Yeah. It should be Pentiment. Pentiment. I feel like that game is really good.
Yeah. Can I, Jesse? Can I? Because I think
Are we
Frank
pulling
and
Marvel Snap
Danny-
out? Or we just
Yeah, just
Okay,
take it out.
put it down there for now.
Take him out back. Grab the 12 gauge and take him out back.
Best mobile game though.
Has
Yes,
anyone played
easily.
Pentiment besides Jesse and I?
Me.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Nice.
What do you think of it so far, and how far in are you?
I'm not that far. I'm like maybe 3 hours in.
Cool.
I like it. It's novel. It's definitely unique and different, and I'm enjoying it because of that. Yeah, I don't. It's not hitting the high notes necessarily for me. So I'm not here to. I'm not going to dunk on any games, but like, there might be an element of recency bias with it as well because it only came out 2 weeks ago, and I'm not sure if this came out in February would be. I don't know. Who knows? But I don't necessarily see what everyone else sees. But also, I've only played 3 hours, so. Who knows? You know what I mean? I'm really liking a lot of it. Like I'm enjoying this game. I will have enjoyed this game once it's over. But in the same way, I also enjoyed loads of great games like Rogue Legacy or those. It's not for me. But yeah, it's a good game. I'm not gonna dunk on it.
Cool. Yeah. No. As like Jesse, I'm curious to hear why it didn't make your list. Not because I think it deserves to be at the top of everyone's list, just because I was curious for other people's takes on it. Because I'm still in the thick of it, and I haven't talked to anyone about it really.
The only reason Pentiment's not on my list is because I didn't finish it, which is I think is the same reason Elden Ring's not on my list. Also, I don't really vibe with Elden Ring all that much. But like Pentiment, I think what it's doing, if you are the kind of person who likes what Pentiment is doing, Pentiment is like there's really, I can't think of anything else that came out this year that does what Pentiment is doing, which is the like RPG, the social aspect part of it. Because Danny, you liked Weird West because it kind of captures that immersive sim element. There's really nothing else this year that you've played that does that, right? I think in the same way, Pentiment captures the RPG aspect, the kind of thing that you want from an RPG that's about making choices. It feels like the choices really do matter. A story that I told Frank and Jeremy before we recorded the 100 Games episode was about, and this is as spoiler agnostic, agnostic. Wow, that's a hard word to say. That you can get without spoiling the plot. But there's when you're playing Pentiment, you get to sort of define your character a little bit. You give them backstory and what are they doing, what did they go to school for, stuff like that.
What language do they know, and that's
yeah, exactly. What are they a nerd about? And we picked lawyer for our character. They went to school for law stuff. And there's a conversation that occurs where a character mentions to you, hey, like this is kind of like that other court case. And you can be like, it's not like that other court case. It has nothing to do with that. And they could be like, how do you know that? And you could be like, I went to law school. And that's a funny thing that you get to bring up your backstory like that, right? Not 5 minutes later, the game's like, here's a skill check. You failed the skill check because you gave unsolicited legal advice and because you bragged about going to law school. And like,
Hell yeah.
that is the most... when I'm playing an
cool.
RPG, I want it to give a crap about me saying stupid crap like that to other characters and like interacting with them in that way and having that backstory that plays into the narrative. And for that alone, I think Pentiment is a really special game.
I think I'm in the planting seeds portion of that game as well, and I have not necessarily seen them blossom.
Right.
Yeah, I think. Can I take the reins just for a second and just put us maybe in a spot here? If we were to, there are 4 games that want to get in. We currently have 5 sort of. If I was to put Monkey Island there again, that could make it in, right? Signalis, Tunic, Weird West, Pentiment, and Monkey Island. And the ones that are kind of in by committee, and also because they're good, obviously, but sort of largely by committee, are Elden Ring, Cult of the Lamb, Immortality, Neon White, Vampire Survivors, and Citizen Sleeper. If we were to just shift all these up for now, we could talk about all of them, and the last one wouldn't make it in. And I will also say, if we do have our wild card, the only person who doesn't have a wild card is Jeremy. So... if you, I'm not saying vote against your own interests, but that's if there was a game here that was a wild card more than it was a top 10, would it? I mean, I wouldn't put Signalis there, but maybe.
Yeah, no. Okay, so Signalis for me has to be on this list. It is far and away one of the best games of this year. I think it is one of those games that stacks up to AAA games. It does so much with so little. Pentiment is Pentiment, I think, is a game that is so brilliant, but I can recognize, like you have with Monkey Island, that a huge part of the reason I love it is part of it is what Jesse said. It is doing the sort of systemic, like social RPG thing, and I think that's an incredibly hard thing to pull off, and they pull it off incredibly well in this game. But I have to recognize that the reason I kept putting my controller down playing Pentiment was not necessarily just because of that. It's because I'm a fucking nerd, and I kept going like, oh, they're like talking about this specific historical event. They're talking about the Hermetic Corpus. They're talking about Marcio Ficino. Like I just
the Counter-Reformation.
Yeah, it was like I feel like I need to interview Josh Sawyer about this game, because it felt like someone went into my brain and was like, what's a bunch of weird shit this dude likes that he would feel personally serviced by being in a video game. So yeah, I'm cool. I think Pentiment is sort of a wild card. I don't think it's for everyone, and I think part of the reason that it's finding a huge audience is because it's on Game Pass, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yeah, so I think people are able to try out this kind of weird, challenging game without dunking $20 into it. But I think it's fucking brilliant. I'm happy if it's on the top 10. I'm happy if it's my little special guy.
Okay, for now, let's put Signalis in. Let's put Tunic in. And then I don't like nominating one necessarily for myself, but if I was, I think I have made more of an impassioned plea for Weird West than I necessarily have for Monkey Island. If Pentiment and Monkey Island are the two, and I will say there is an elegance to at least you having your wild card of Pentiment, but I don't want to necessarily... We're down to the point where we're kind of... This is the only pinch point we've really, really, really had. I think a lot of us have been kind of okay with some of the other ones not making it in to the top 10. Is there any of the top 9 that's already in that we need to have a conversation about? Is there any of those games, like the ones that only have 2 votes, for instance, like Neon White, like Citizen Sleeper, like Vampire Survivors, that maybe shouldn't be in there?
I think
I was gonna say, just even looking at it, I love this list because it's all like every game here is so original, and like games I'm legitimately excited to play and get into, where it's like, this is like, I'm stoked on everything. So yeah, I don't have any detracting things.
Yeah, and a lot of them are games that we've done content on, which is funny how that works.
Well, we're not attempting to make a sort of like a objective. You know, this is a very subjective list, which is what I like about it. Can I propose something?
Yes.
I hate to, it's hard because it involves me getting my pick, so that's why it's fine. If we were to move Monkey Island in, and then we basically had, I'll just do it visually so we can kind of look at it, and then we had Call of Duty, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, and Pentiment as our personal wild cards, then who's to say what's in the top 10 at all? Maybe it's just 14 games that we really liked that came out this year.
Yes.
That it's 10 games that we voted on by committee, and then that it's 4 that we will sleep better tonight on the list than we will if we were to sort of argue with ourselves to make them not be on the list. And we all got one.
That's all well and good, but in like 6 months when you're like, hey, Jeremy, Pentiment wasn't one of the top 10 games of last year, but Monkey Island was.
I mean, we can make the argument right now that there is no top 10. Like, let's be honest, the name of this podcast is our Games of the Year. It's not.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not
top 10.
It's not the top 10.
Of the year.
And also, we're not
I'm
ranking them.
Yeah.
You know, we're also not ranking them within it. So how would that feel to everyone? I will say that it will cause a problem in that I guess 14 doesn't divide into 3 episodes any easier than 10 does. So maybe it's
a good point.
Maybe that's it. Maybe we do the top 10, and maybe the 4th episode is the patron exclusive episode, is us talking about these ones. I don't know. Maybe we could do it that way, where it's us talking about these games that we really liked, that were our sort of wild cards. But how would that feel? I'm just throwing it out there as an idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of doing it, because the other route we go is kind of drawing straws against games we've already picked, because I think that there's a strong case to be made for me personally that I think Pentiment deserves to be on there more than Citizen Sleeper, but that's complex because. Yeah,
because then you have to argue against yourself, right?
I have to argue against myself, and Jesse had Citizen Sleeper on there. So then it's like, do we try to quantify my support for either of those games? Is it how many people want them, how badly, etc.? So it's tough.
Yeah, and like that's not our vibe. Like I feel like our vibe is like we just want to talk about the games we like. We support each other for the games that we like. We don't shit on each other for the games we like. We don't shit on other people for the games that they like. It's just like, yeah, whatever, man. It's cool. Pentiment's great. I'm glad you like Pentiment. Let's get it on there. Yeah. None of you.
I'm glad that you like Monkey Island. I love Monkey Island is a game that I'll probably never play. I'd like to someday. I never got into it, and I recently played a more contemporary point and click adventure. I finished it last night. I won't say what it is because I fucking hated it. And I don't want to shit on games like that because they're cool. But point and click adventures are very tough for me to get into. But listening to you talk about Monkey Island, that was my Monkey Island.
Right? Yeah. You got everything you needed out of Monkey Island by hearing. Yeah, it's kind of like Dwarf Fortress or something. Right?
Yeah, totally.
You don't need to, as somebody who's been playing a lot of Dwarf Fortress the past couple of weeks. Yeah. Okay. Can we go through the little list of what we got here?
Let's do it.
Our top games of 2022. We have, and these will be ones we talk about over the next couple of weeks and give them awards. That's going to be the fun part over the next couple of podcasts. We have to give awards to all these games as well. They are, and we're looking at a document here in-house. I'm going to just change the color of all of them to green so that we are very clear that there is, I have accidentally changed to a lighter color of green. I'm not applying anything.
They're all green.
They're all green, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, what do you mean by that, dude?
Some are greener than others, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like class traders within the list. Noclip's games of 2022 are Elden Ring, Cult of the Lamb, Immortality, Neon White, Vampire Survivors, Citizen Sleeper, Signalis, Tunic, Weird West, Return to Monkey Island, Pentiment, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Horizon Forbidden West, and God of War Ragnarok, our favorite games of the year. Nice. That was pretty painless in the end, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
We did it.
We got it down to 10. And the next couple of episodes, we're going to divvy these up probably into, I don't know, groups of 4, it looks like, and maybe some hangers on. Does it feel like those last 3 are a little bit different to the rest of them, though?
Well, Return to Monkey Island's a legacy sequel. The last 3 are all like just direct sequels. So I feel like that's why it's like that's
a good point. Mm-hmm. We have hardly any. Yeah. Okay. Before we close it out, I guess, what does this list say about us? Like, what does this say about
we like original
Noclip
good things
and who we are? And yeah, I guess, right? Or we clearly like indie games that are stylistic. Is there any common threads any of you are seeing here?
Small teams,
you know.
small teams.
You're right. Small teams.
Elden Ring.
Small teams. Crunch culture. Yeah, we're big
crunch culture. We love crunch.
Big fan of crunch.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of these games scratch dark theme. It's like I don't know. It's like I feel like every game has death in it. Theoretically, you can lose lives. I feel like a lot of these games deal with like heavy, not like a XXX rated, but adult subject matter. Or just I don't know, cool, stuff that's legitimately cool and interesting, at least to me. Because like Cult of the Lamb has like Colts. Elden Ring is so nasty. Immortality's got crazy David Lynch shit. Vampire Survivors got mummies.
I'm excited to talk about. I'm so excited to talk about Cult of the Lamb.
Yeah.
We haven't had a chance to talk about that game. God damn it. This feels good. And also, this is our reading list, I guess, for the next couple of weeks. I know we're recording one of these tomorrow, but we're spreading the rest of them out a decent amount. So we'll probably do them in order of the ones that we have probably played the most, maybe, and leave the ones we haven't played till later in the month. But that's a list. All right. That's it, folks. Elden Ring, Cult of the Lamb, Immortality, Neon White, Vampire Survivors, Citizen Sleeper, Signalis, Tunic, Weird West, Return to Monkey Island, Pentiment, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Horizon Forbidden West, and God of War Ragnarok. They are our top games of 2022. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for following the podcast. We'll be back next week where we take 3 of those, or 4 of those probably, and attempt to give them the prize they deserve. What is it about Tunic? What's the best part of it? Most returning to an area to see that it's different. Signalis.
Yes.
Most Silent Hill. Most Cosmic Horror. Vampire Survivors. Most successful basic fucking idea. I don't know. Like, just we'll get into it over the next couple of weeks. That's it. Thank you all so much. Hit us up on Patreon. Follow us on Patreon. We have anniversary billing now, so you can go check it out. You don't have to wait till the start of a month or anything. You'll be billed from the day that you sign up until the next day you sign up. Thank you so much to everyone who went annual during our sale last week, which was really cool. We got a bunch of people joining up for the year, doing some annual. We might do another one of those around Christmas time if you want to wait for that. And yeah, otherwise we'll see you next week where we talk about our games of the year in much more detail. See you then.